So I was trying to think of something else to paint for you guys that I think almost anybody could do. So I thought about an ice cream cone. I like ice cream. So the first thing we've got to do is draw the cone. Let me see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. Oh my gosh, I'll get used to this one day. Okay, so the first thing you need to draw is a circle. This is going to be where the main part of your ice cream goes. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just a circle. And then you're going to draw a cone shape underneath it. Okay, so I'm going to start there. It's going to be a little bit bigger than the ice cream. This is going to be the ice cream. And then we're going to do a sugar cone. Now if you're having a hard time getting it even, you can bisect this shape up here, this elliptical shape. Make a point and then connect your diagonal lines to it. And then we're just going to sketch in the actual ice cream part. So I'm going to make this one kind of melty and drippy. It's just going to go around the edge. And we can add a drip there later when we're done painting it. So that's all we need for the ice cream cone part. Okay, so the colors decided to pull out for this one are Craft Smart Golden Brown. That'll focus on that. I don't know if I'll use it, but a little bit of orange. Folk Art Bark Brown. I think any other dark brown color will work. Hear my dogs barking. Just red. I like the one that's a little bit pinker, not the one that's oranger. And white. And again, I use, this is acrylic paint, right? But it's just a artist grade acrylic. A little bit thicker, a little bit more pigmented. Okay, so I'm just going to use this, I think it's a 1. Oh, it's a 10/1 round brush. It's just a cheap brush. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the cone part. So, my palette's a mess. Don't know if you can see it. I'll try to mix where you can. I'm just going to get a little bit of brown and make sure it's a little bit thinner. This Folk Art's just a little bit thick. Okay, and I'm going to outline my cone. So, yeah. And the nice thing about this is it doesn't have to be perfect. I didn't prime my rock because it's already white. You can always prime it with white if you want to. So, we have a little shadow over there. So I'm just going to wipe my brush clean and I'm going to grab a little bit of that brown color. We'll see how this works. Okay. And I am just going to blend it and kind of overlap it into the edges of this rock. Not the rock, but the cone. Sometimes I think I'm a little dyslexic. Okay, and that's looking a little dark. So I'm just going to go ahead, rinse my brush real quick, and pick up a small amount of white. I'm just going to blend it right into the color because it's still wet. So I was kind of worried that the browns I chose wouldn't make the best hard time talking and painting. But ice cream cone color, but it looks like it's working out okay. I just picked up a little bit more of that light brown color. And I'm just getting it right up to the edge. So for the next step, I'm going to mix just a tiny bit, I mean tiny, there we go, of the light brown with the dark brown. And I'm just going to drag it along this edge. I guess it could be a little bit more orange. I don't know if you guys can see the actual color. Get it to focus. There we go. Let's try it. So I'm going to take a little bit of the orange, mix it in with some of the light brown, and I'm just going to lay a little bit over the top. Yeah. I'm liking that color much better. Oh, you can see that. A little bit darker through my phone, but I promise you it's a pretty good color. So it was just the orange and the light brown. I'm going to add a tiny bit of dark brown to it over here, just so I can get that shadowy side. Wipe off my brush, get a little bit of the color I made before. Add a smidgen of white to it and see if I can get kind of like a lighter highlight edge here. Now, painting this idea of wet into wet paint. Okay, so I'm liking the way that's looking. That's good. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse my brush really good, and I'm gonna get ready to do the ice cream cone layers. So I'm gonna mix up some pink, really light pink. So let's see if I can get this super messy palette in here. I use the same plate until I can't mix anymore on it. So I'm gonna just get a bunch of white, and then the smallest little amount of red. So that's all I'm going to use right now. And I got this pretty good light pink color. Doesn't take very much red. So I am just going to quickly spread this on my rock. I'm not going to worry if it's not all the way mixed. I'm just going to get it on. I can mix it on the rock. Now, if I was doing a bigger rock, I probably would have mixed up more. And, you know, if I don't have enough here, I'm just going to mix up more. Try to do my best to match it. Okay, so I'm going to mix up a little bit more. I'm going to make this one just a tad darker. Got a little bit too much water. Okay, so I'm just mixing up the pink again, just the exact same way I did before. I'm just trying to make it a little bit darker. I'll just test it on here. Oh, I made it a little bit lighter. Okay. Okay, that's a little bit darker. Maybe. Okay. So this one's just a little bit darker, and I'm going to have the same side of my cone be a little bit darker than this underneath of the ball. Puppies. Dogs under my feet. Okay. I'm actually going to want it to be a tiny bit darker, so I'm just going to add a little bit of that red color to it again. A little bit more. Again, I'm trying to work quickly so I can blend my colors a little bit into each other. Okay, so I'm gonna go along the edge. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of white to my edge of my pile of pink. So this is kind of what my paint looks like right now. So I got a bunch of different tints and shades in this pile. So I'm going to grab a little bit of the darker color. So if I can quickly work while it's a little bit wet, going to be able to get some of those blends that people seem to like. So I'm just picking up different shades and kind of lightly working them in to each other. Maybe a little bit lighter on this side, kind of mirroring the cone at the bottom as far as the shading goes. And I'm just going to grab a tiny bit of white, and it's going to be for this lightest part of the ice cream cone. Got a little bit too much, so instead of it, while it's wet, I can blend it in. Maybe some a little bit down there too along that edge. So you get the ice cream cone part and then that. Okay, so for the cone, I think I'm just going to use some straight dark brown. We'll see how this goes. And a lot of times when I'm doing this, it's just trial and error. Like, I've never drawn ice cream cones like this before. I've never painted one, so I don't know, I thought it would be good. Okay, so I'm just going to make diagonal curved lines going across. And I'm just barely using the tip of my brush. And I have, excuse me, I have thinned out my paint so I can try to get some thinner lines. I do have a finer brush I use for lines, but to be honest, I'm lazy, so I'm going to be okay with these. So if you have a littler brush that you like to use for fine lines or not, you know, I'm just using the same brush. So there's that. Maybe I'll pull out this tip on this brush is just a little bit better. So I'm going to go in with a lighter brown, kind of do some little highlights on these ridges. Let's see how this looks. Mix up just a little bit more. Now, again, I always say this, one thing I like about acrylic paint is it's really forgiving. So if I make a mistake or I don't like something, I can just paint it out. I'm actually just going to add a little bit of a thin layer of my light brown paint over the top of that because the white was too bold for me. Maybe you liked it, I don't know. I'll do some more here. See if we can give it a little bit more detail. And then, and if you were fine with it the other way, you could have stopped. So I'm gonna make a lighter edge going down here even. All right, I'm trying to look at it. My little camera light went off. Okay, so I think I'm fairly happy with this ice cream cone. And there's there. Now, if you want to, this is a little bit too plain for you, we can add a cherry. So for the cherry though, I'm going to pull out a different red. This one is the bright red. And I actually might add a little bit of blue, and you'll see why in just a second. So it's out like a tiny bit of blue. So I'm going to start with a circle. A little bit too much paint. So I'm going to try to get some of it off. Okay. So the blue is so I could make a reddish purple, a little bit more on the red side, like the red violet side. There, like that. And I'm going to use that for a shadow. I'm only going to use a tiny bit of paint on my brush. So I never use black for my shadows. So okay, so I got that, and then we just got to get a little bit of the highlight area. So I'm getting just the tiniest amount of, where's my camera, of white on the end of my brush, and don't know if that'll focus for you, but it's just a tiny bit. I'm just going to put it right there at the top. Should have stopped talking. So my paint dried. I just picked up some red. I can work into that. And I go get a little bit more of my red violet. A little bit more red. Just kind of layer that on a little bit. I'm using just the tiniest amounts. Try not to go cross-eyed. So now I got a cherry, and I'm gonna put like a little highlight dot if we want to. It's small. Maybe we'll add one of those things up there. You see that? Make it a little bit wider. There we go. I'm getting a glare off that. There's like a dip in there. So, yep, there we go. Ice cream cone rock. Now when it is dry, when I still have my pencil lines there, again, I didn't prime this rock. So what you can do is you can take a little piece of paper towel, and a little piece of paper towel got it wet, and I am just going to rub some of those pencil lines in. You could do a background around it if you wanted to. I usually just just do this. It kind of erases some of those lines on there. Another little piece of paper towel. Try to get it right up to the edge. Yeah, so now I got a little miniature, not super micro mini, but a little ice cream cone rock. There you go.